In the last video, we set up our system-wide vendor list. As you can see down here in the system-wide section under vendors, we have our IndySoft Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville vendors. At the same time, we also did set up and link these vendors from the system-wide option lists to the actual company and use the company as a branch. So since we have already linked the system-wide vendor to the branch company in the system, now what we can do is actually start with assigning vendor branch contexts to users. Now in the past, how we would set up locations is we would actually have a default location set up by default, and you can add your own views down here at the bottom. Traditionally, that would be the way we would do it. We will now be taking that away as administrators. So now instead of someone creating these locations, they will now be assigned them. So what we can do here, since we've already set up these companies as vendor branches, we can go into Management in Profile Manager, and we can set up system-wide vendor location preferences. And for now, I'm going to use Charleston. What I can do here is edit the associated users that will be associated with IndySoft Charleston vendor branch location. And I'll find my user, and I'm going to right-click on them and associate that user. You'll see profile is a standard user at the moment, but I'm just going to hit OK. What I can also do here is have the IndySoft Charleston vendor selected and hit the edit icon. This is where we can actually modify the location settings for IndySoft Charleston from this screen here. And you'll see at the very top, the vendor is IndySoft Charleston, and this will be the system-wide default options for the user location settings. Now keep in mind, when I hit close out of this, since I didn't make any changes right off the bat here, but I have associated users, I really have not necessarily enforced these location settings yet. So we're still in a prep mode at the moment. If I want to start enforcing these, then what I can do is exit out of vendor location preferences. I can go down to the bottom right under profiles, right click, and then local administrator and branch administrator settings. At the very bottom, not worrying about anything at the top at the moment. At the very bottom, I want to enable vendor branch location administrative management. Once I hit OK, this will tell us that this is a new feature, and it will allow users to access any associated system-wide vendor branch locations, and it's going to hide the default user locations for the associated users. Very important here. I'm going to click yes, and we're going to proceed for now. Now I'm going to minimize Profile Manager, reload all settings. Now opening up user location settings, we see is now called vendor branch as opposed to location, and IndySoft Charleston is our only option to choose from now, since that is what is in our vendor location preferences in Profile Manager, and since we are now enforcing them. Now note that if I do choose this IndySoft Charleston location, a lot of items are grayed out and blanked, and I'm not able to edit them. And the reason being is that these are now controlled by the admin from within Profile Manager. So we have now removed that access to actually modify these user location settings. And these are now vendor branch system-wide settings. And last but not least, for our admins here, we can go to Profile Manager. Once we open that up here, once we're in Profile Manager, not only can we see per vendor branch in the management section under Setup System-Wide Vendor Location Preferences, we can see each branch and their respective linked users. We can also double click on the user here, open their system up, and see that their vendor branch locations per user are set up here in this grid.